the Bartle, Josh Bennett, live from the Morgan Scalley Introductory press conference, named the 24th head coach of the University of Utah football program. Pretty interesting day, huh?
Yeah, cool day. Big room filled with people. A lot of love, a lot of red, a lot of people that are in Coach's Corner.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously a big day, big period of transition for the University of Utah football program. Making the move from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scalley and getting the opportunity to hear from Coach Scalley today. It was really refreshing in a lot of ways. It was exciting. It was inspiring. It was a lot of different things. It was emotional. There were some laughs. There were tears. There was all of the above. And so just real quick, I shouldn't say real quick, but just initial takeaway, big picture takeaway. What's your biggest takeaway from what we saw on that stage right there?
Yeah, Coach is a bit of a teddy bear. Wears his heart on his sleeve. Not afraid to show raw, genuine emotion as he opened things up with some tears and a quote that I feel like we'll probably remember forever. I'm a baby, but my team's going to rip your face off.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
That was something.
But to watch him speak was just it's more than I would have ever expected out of a coach at the University of Utah. He goes long. He's not afraid to peel back the layers. He's not afraid to show some color and tell you what's really going on. So it's cool to that coach lets you in his head.
No, I think that's a great way to put it. Is you're not only getting in his head, like understanding, but in his heart, like in his emotions. He's wearing his emotions on his sleeve, and everything came back to the people around him, right? His wife. He got cracked up, talking about his greatest recruiting win was his wife, and that's what led to I'm a baby, but my team's going to rip your face off. That was that moment, as he talked about his wife. He talked about his dad and his family, and excuse me, that being the inspiration for him and becoming a fan of the University of Utah football program. I thought that was, for me, there's a lot of things, but his talking about, being a fan, being somebody like you, like me, like somebody else in the North End, just being a fan and growing up, watching the University of Utah football program, admiring it for what it is. Obviously having a father on the team that played, a grandfather as well, and kids and family all around him. You can tell how much he grew up and having the University of Utah at the forefront of his family, how much that's meant to him and what that's led to him becoming today.
Yeah, and I think that's, when you think of Utah football and you think about, the family on three, it was cool to see him lead with family. And one thing that might not have poked through on the presser, kind of a cool little moment. He's talking about his mom and how, she was worried about him playing football. And he's like, oh, she didn't think I could play. I didn't know this. And then she just pops up and I was wrong. Sweet little lady. I was wrong. So that was cool. It was good to see him, get up there and talk about all the, I guess there's, I don't know what's right and wrong, but it felt like he talked about all the right things and thanked all the right people to start. And it felt good and warm and fuzzy just right from the get-go.
Yeah, no, and to your point, a name that we heard throughout the press conference, Kyle Whittingham. Kyle or Morgan talking about Kyle and what he meant to him. He talked about his experience coming to Utah as a running back and having to change positions, and Kyle Whittingham telling him, hey, look, I know you want to be a running back, but I also wanted to be a center fielder for the Los Angeles Dodgers or whatever it was. And my dream didn't come true. And so, just sharing that experience. And, obviously we heard from Mark Harlan, we heard from President Randall, and all took the time to acknowledge Kyle Whittingham. You made this point, right? That it's kind of unfortunate. It's kind of sad that Kyle Whittingham wasn't here today to take this in, something that he laid out as the succession plan for Utah football. It's unfortunate. It obviously is the day and where we're at with college football, but you made a great point with that.
Yeah, it's weird because I think in a different world, different timing, different things, the other coach is here, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was good, like amidst everything, you know, for him to again stop and show thanks to everybody who's made it possible for him to get to this day, this moment, this lifelong dream realized, and to get to here.
Yeah, I think obviously you could tell, you know, this has been a long time dream of his, right? Growing up, being a fan, now having the opportunity to take the reins. We had the opportunity to obviously hear from him, and you know, he went on thanking everybody, but then we got to ask questions, and you know, I asked him about the offensive vision that he has for the program. We know his culture and what he preaches on the defensive side of the ball. There's been a lot of speculation about what he wants this offense to be and what he wants it to look like. And I thought that the two words that he used to describe his vision sum it up perfectly: physicality and innovation, right? He wants to be on the cutting edge. He wants to be at the forefront of football when it comes to offense, when it comes to just football in general. But that's going to be what what leads him, what they are trying to accomplish on that side of the ball. And obviously with Kevin McGivern, Scalley kind of talked about his process going through that and what led him to the hiring of Kevin McGivern, being a defensive coordinator and evaluating offense. What gives him the most trouble? What gives him the most fits? That's what led to Kevin McGivern, was him breaking down the film and saying, hey, I would have problems with this.
Yeah, he likened the stuff that McGivern can do on the offensive side of the ball to an ulcer for a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So and he mentioned how, you know, McGivern was a name that every year you got to look at this guy, this guy, the name that's just been around forever. So it sounds like Scalley got a guy that he's kind of been curious about working with for a long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and I thought his point about kind of transitioning, keeping the conversation going here, is talk around the players and about the players and how important they are. I thought that was a really important piece, because that is a significant element to why Coach Scalley is now the head coach of University of Utah.
Yeah, a big part of what's made Morgan Scalley an extremely effective recruiter over the years is his ability to walk into a recruit's home, look at the parents, and say, we're helping turn boys into men.
Yeah.
And today he spoke about how if a player comes here and all they do is play football, then he's failed them. It's about making better men, turning out guys that'll be fathers, preaches to the players that the most important job, most important role any of these guys will have one day is as a father. And you know, it's cool to just see like that family, and that it just means a little bit more here. And some of that stuff, it's University of Utah does things a little differently.
The big picture view, right? Understanding that perspective, having that perspective. And, you know, he's asked about the transfer portal and what his approach is going to be. And I thought his response was great. You know, that, hey, we know that we have to constantly recruit our players. We have to show them that we love them, that we value them. And I think that is something that Utah needs at the helm of this program, because it is not a Texas. It is not a Miami. It is not an Oregon where they have unlimited resources, where they can go out and they can buy guys. There is a culture here. There is, you know, a family atmosphere that still needs to be present. And I think having Morgan at the helm with his personality, with his appreciation and love for the players, I think that's going to be super beneficial for Utah. Obviously, you know, Utah's going to have resources that they need to compete. They're going to have that stuff. But I think combining that with Morgan, who has been instrumental in establishing that culture and family atmosphere for Utah over the last, 5 years or so, he's been the guy that's been in the locker room, that's had the conversations with players. He's been the guy that goes to them and asks them, how's the family? What's life like? He's that guy. And I think, having him, like I said, at the helm is just going to have sort of an effect throughout the rest of the program. That's the hope anyways, right? And I think that's going to be kind of the hallmark of a Morgan Scalley program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What'd you make about him when we started talking about his best friend?
Dude, you asked the question, and it led to an incredible story, right? Of his best friend needing to shout him out, and I thought that was special because Coach Shaw, just like every other coach on this staff, has had opportunities to leave, And Shaw, obviously, he was hired by Kyle Whittingham. He knows the defensive system like the back of his hand, and he certainly had an opportunity to leave now. Mm-hmm. But what Scalley shared, the bond that those two men have, going back, sharing a story of Utah in those 5 and 7 seasons, and going through the transition, Kalani Sitake leaving the program, going to Oregon State. He talked about him and Shaw being in the room together, in the defensive room together, and just wondering whether they were going to have a job or not. And, to then go on and just get to work. And that, I think, them from that moment on to now, their friendship has gotten them through a lot. And I thought it was a really special moment to have Scalley acknowledge Shaw. The two, Shaw had some things to say back to Scalley while we were going. And I think that friendship is so important, not just to Coach Scalley as he takes things over, but to the program overall. I think having that, again, at the core of it all, I think is really important. I thought it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just the whole thing, kind of a cool moment. Just it's something that's been in play for so long. And I know that he was announced the head coach, like when Witt first stepped down and stuff, but like today just made things feel so much more official. And then to have that celebration of him was really cool.
Yeah. And it was a big celebration. There were a lot of people here.
Yes. Very, very full room. But overall, just really happy to see him up there, realizing a lifelong dream. And when he talks, with the glossy eyes, like he's just in a moment of sheer joy. And that's things like this is what makes sports cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, just kind of the taking the time, knowing people by name, knowing people and understanding who they are. Coach Scalley spent a lot of time after the press conference, shaking hands, giving hugs. He dapped up a lot of people. And I think that too is going to be something that we talk about a lot with Coach Scalley, is the ability to relate to people, to have those relationships, those friendships, I think is going to be really key. And so, just coming out of this, I think and believe Utah fans are going to be fired up. To have Morgan Scalley at the helm, he is a Utah man through and through, and to have that in place, one of our own, as Coach Randall put it, President Randall put it, that you have one of your own at the helm, a Utah man through and through. I think I'm really excited for, what's going to come for the program, for the university. And President Randall also said this: they believe they've got the right guy to lead Utah into the next era of college athletics. And with everything going on with the University of Utah right now, the PE deal, conference realignment, always on the horizon, I agree. I think Coach Scalley is the right guy to lead Utah into wherever we're headed, whatever college football, whatever form it takes over the next 5-10 years. I think Scalley is absolutely the right guy to keep the program together, to keep the fan base together, and to lead this university, this program into the future.
No, that's very well said, and I don't think I really need to add too much more to that. I mean, leading up to this moment today, we knew that Morgan loved Utah.
Yeah.
Leading up to this moment today, we knew that Morgan could coach football.
Yeah.
And today, you see that Morgan's a leader. And
you saw why people view him as that leader, right? We got a little taste of what it is.
He's very easy to listen to. Very easy to listen to. Very easy to feel things when he talks. And, we're media, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're sitting there and, that everybody gets to clap and we're sitting there and everybody gets to show emotion and stuff. But he makes it that much harder to remain emotionless.
Yeah.
Because when he talks, he makes you feel things.
I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously we have a job as media members, and, it's our job during press conferences to usually to write out things that he talks about, to share quotes, to tweet out those things. And I found myself captivated listening to Coach Scalley. It was hard to just not get trapped in the moment, sucked into the moment, into the emotion, listening to him speak. It was hard just not to feel that, and not hard in a difficult way, but just, it's our job to be media members and to do that part of the job. He made it difficult listening to him because he was just so engaging. And I think it was really refreshing to hear from him. And I'm sure the fan base felt that as well.
Yeah, I look forward to every conversation, so
Yeah.
to speak, between us and Scalley going forward, because
Yeah,
there's just a lot of meat to those conversations.
100%. Well, we'll go ahead. We'll wrap it up. We got everybody kind of trying to clean up. Got a lot going on behind us. We got to get out of here. I'm sure we're about to get kicked out. But for myself, Steve Bartle, for Josh Bennett, who made the drive down from Idaho to be here, appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll have more on Coach Scalley's takeover, more on the coaching staff at the Utah Blockcast. But appreciate everybody, and we'll be signing off.